Hello and welcome, and in today's video I'm going to show you the top 10 greatest Ark tames. So without further ado, let's get straight into this. I know it's barely been out for any time at all, but I wanted to put the Gigantoraptor in at number 10 as I'm really impressed with this creature. I love its model design. It's actually a little bit smaller than I originally thought, and it isn't too difficult to tame, and its tame method is very inventive as well, requiring a sort of mini game where you do the move it gives back to you. And these things are just full of abilities once tamed. They're insane gliders, just generally great creatures anyway. They can carry eggs in their saddles, and I'm pretty sure creatures as well, kind of like the Maywing, and you can pluck their feather every 24 hours to kind of do what the Oviraptor does, but a lot better, and they deal a wealth of damage. They really are truly great creatures, and they might be in the future like the most amazing creature. It's just obviously they haven't been out for that long, but I felt I had to put them here. Next up, we have got the Rhinognatha, and this creature is here just simply because it really does do a lot of new things, and it's still nothing. There is still nothing like this creature to this day, even though the Gigantoraptor came out, and that's a really successful creature. Obviously this thing's been out for longer, we've used it more, we really know how it works as a greatest Ark creature, and this really definitely is one of those. And although yes, my perspectives on this creature aren't the best, just considering how I think it's a little too OP, I still find it is an extremely useful creature, and I get a lot of use out of it, namely with its ability to pick up things like Rexes and Paraceratheriums, especially in ASA at the moment, considering that obviously there is no sort of cryopods and things like that, which, you know, obviously we're probably not going to get until Extinction comes out, which is absolutely ages, or, you know, we'll get it just some point in the future. Obviously there are mods that you can use to carry creatures around with, but I'm trying to play it a little bit more vanilla at the moment. I do have the Dino Tracker on though, because that mod is really useful. It's like Creature Finder Deluxe, but now just into ASA. The tame method for the Rhinognatha is also largely quite inventive. Not as inventive as the Gigantoraptor, as nothing's really been like that before it to an extent, whereas this is pretty much just the tame for the Reaper. It's like the exact same tame method, it impregnates your dino instead of you, and you have to use the pheromones on your creature to get it to actually impregnate that. You don't really need to do that for the Reaper, but obviously Reaper pheromones are there, but that's to stop the baby from killing you. They won't do this with the Rhinognatha. And then instead of using XP to get 100% effectiveness, there is kind of cravings timer where you'll feed it those resources which were on screen earlier. But I don't think that's too necessary, because 100% effectiveness on this thing just takes so much effort, and it doesn't provide so much better of an experience of having this creature. So I really wouldn't do that in general, but if you want then you can, but I would just recommend get the highest level one that you can and tame it at whatever effectiveness it wants to tame at. And if you do have those resources at the time, then you might as well go for it. If you don't, then don't really bother, it's not all too necessary. Next up, we have got the Reaper, and this creature is just the king of Arboration, and nothing really does beat this creature when it comes to how well it's suited to its map, and just how much of an influence it was for future Ark creatures to come, as that taming method was something like we had never ever seen before. And considering this was 2017 Ark, that is still just like, that's insane that this creature came out. It seems like such an up-to-date new creature by its features and all of that. And maybe yes, it isn't as feature dense as some of the newer creatures that only has its main attack and obviously that tail ability in the fact that it can go underground as well, but still it's so well designed, its animations are clean, it looks amazing, and its tame method is inventive, very inventive for the time actually. As this thing, you would get impregnated by it, you find a Reaper Queen, knock it down until it glows. I think it's a reddish purpley glow, or I think below 1000 health, and then it will impregnate you, and then you gather loads of XP, and out will come that Reaper baby, and you'll use those Reaper pheromones to stop that baby from killing you. But it probably still will a couple of times. And on Gen 2 you can do these things like absolute cake as well. So if you really want to get yourself a Reaper easily and you have Gen 2, then watch Rajcluck's tutorial on how to tame Reapers on Gen 2. It is absurdly easy. Next up, we have got the Maywing, and this creature is here just because it really is like the peak of travel mounts for me in a way. It is just so speedy, so useful, and you can just gather so much agility with this creature, and you can really get some insane speed on no matter what map you're on. You can really just dash through everything, and it doesn't matter too much about the elevation of what map you're on. You can still glide around with absolute ease. It only really becomes difficult if you want to go up in elevation, but you won't really be doing that too much, and they are very quick on the land as well, and they can jump up, so it's not very difficult to traverse things like mountains, especially on the islands, considering they're really not that big when you compare them to other maps where there are a lot bigger things. Crystal Isles is a good example there. Maybe some of those higher islands are not things which you will be reaching on the Maywing, but it depends. You'll probably be able to get up there with just a little bit of hard work and effort. Also, these things do act as a portable feeding trough as well, which is really nice, especially for you breeders out there. You get a Gigantoraptor and you get yourself a Maywing, you've got yourself a really perfect combination. And also, they can gather berries as well, which is a nice, neat side ability. They can also glide along top of water as well, and they're pretty good swimmers. Next up, we have got the Shadowmane, and this creature is here just because it is so densely packed with abilities, and it really does need to be here for all of those insane abilities on which it wields. It is an extremely fast mount, capable of so much, and it also has tons of ability as well. It can jump to great heights, and really it can do this at great speed as well. Also, on top of that, these things do have the pack buff, which definitely does aid them in all kinds of combat scenarios. They can also go invisible as well, although you need a mate boosted pair, or at least one of them, one gender of the side of the Shadowmane. I can't really remember because I don't use that ability all too much, but they really do aid themselves with the hydration buff, which only it, the Spino, and as far as I understand the Crystal Wyvern has, and this just makes it deal even more damage under the water. Especially great because it is a hugely amazing underwater swimmer. Its only real downside being its tail method, which is blasphemous at best, but you know, we'll accept it just considering how great this creature truly is. In at number 5, we have got the Baryonyx, and this creature is here just because it is such a great caving creature, and it has been such a great caving creature for so long, it needs to be put in the greatest Ark creatures. It's just a favorite of mine, and I love using it in all ways. I just like using it as a general travel creature. I like using it just for defeating creatures around the map, and obviously I love using it for caving, and it is a very good underwater exploration creature, underwater caving creature as well, especially just for exploring those underwater caves that aren't artifact caves, just the normal underwater caves which you'll find on maps like the island, and I think the center probably has them as well. You know what they are, and yeah, they really are great at that, especially considering they do have a special attack as well, where they can stun creatures up to the size of a Megalodon when in water. You can't do this on land, but you know, it's not 2015 anymore. Hopefully the land sharks aren't around, but you know, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. You know, Ark's still largely quite a buggy game, and I'm sure ASA has its whole manner of land sharks out there, but obviously you won't be able to stun them because you're not in the water. Either way, very nice creature, has a very decent amount of health, great damage, great stamina, great mobility, great abilities, and great uses. It's a must-have for me. Next up, we have got the Bloodstalker in at the number 4 spot, and this creature is just so great and so useful for me. So let's start with its tail methods. Maybe not the best in the world, requiring you to feed it blood bags, and also some smaller tames of yours. The Moss Chops is the preferred one for me to get up to 100% effectiveness. Spawns in the bog biome on Genesis 1, and it's also on Gen 2 as well. And this creature just is so great and so mobile once you've got it, especially in the water, which is what I mainly use it for, and it's like the only real travel mount to have on Gen 1. So it's a whole map where this is really one of your only options, at least native to the map. You can obviously bring some other creatures over like Maywings and Rock Drakes, but obviously flyers are banned on Gen 1 as well as on Arboration. So gliders and things like the Bloodstalker and all manner of other travel creatures that use so different methods really are going to aid you there. But also just across any map really, the Bloodstalker is capable of getting around with immense speed. It also tells you the aggros of all the creatures around you, so it is really easy to get away from danger even before the danger is there, as you can simply see if that creature's aggroed onto you, because sometimes it might not even look it, and then without really guessing or trying, they will just run at you, and you can end up in some pretty sticky situations. They're also great for gathering hexagons on Gen 1 as well, as you know, there's a lot of bog racing missions to use the Bloodstalker. If you've done the alpha one, then you've qualified as a good Bloodstalker flyer, by the way. That's the rule that I've made. Either way, fabulous creature. In at number 3, we have got the Desmodus, and this creature is here for its Sanguine Elixir and just what it has done to shape the Ark game. It is an extremely useful PvE and PvP mount. For PvE, obviously, it has the Sanguine Elixir, 30% of the time done like that. It's a blood bag farm, and it can really get you around the map with some speed with that gliding ability. It can also grapple onto all manner of objects, vertical, horizontal, whatever you want, really. And on top of that, for PvP use, these things can pick people off riders like no problem whatsoever. Absolutely OP for any kind of PvP madness that you want to get into. So if someone's flying around or something like a Pteranodon and RG, this creature's got some serious speed on it, and you can just pick them off and dispose of them as you will. And I've definitely been the victim of a few Desmodus pickings, but I've also been the subject of some few Desmodus pickings as well, and it really is a great way of just getting that PvP in, and it's not actually the hardest thing to do considering just how largely OP this creature is as a flyer, and it definitely is a must-have for me. In at number 2, we have got the Argentavis, and this creature will always pretty much be at the top of these lists in my opinion, just because the Argy is so versatile, so useful, and it's been like that ever since the game came out, and this was in it, obviously with a considerably worse model, but still. Since that TLC, this creature has become even better with a new model and a new slew of abilities. Now, it does have a smithy as a saddle, which really does benefit it, especially just considering what it does. Like, it's essentially like the best metal gatherer in the game in a way. Obviously, it doesn't gather metal, you use it with an Anki, and then from that, you can get yourself loads of metal, crystal and obsidian, and it has tons of weight reduction, so it's a great metal transporter, resource transporter, and you can pick up a very high range of creatures as well, which you might not expect with a creature of this size. And really, it just is extremely useful as a general travel mount as well, especially with the smithy as its saddle, which you can repair any of your armor or metal tools as long as you have some smelted metal ingots in its inventory. And they do put up quite a fight as well, having quite a lot of melee and a very decent health stat, and also some decent stamina to keep them fighting for long, which obviously does actually make them really great flyers as well. They can fly for long distances, and although they're not as fast as a Pteranodon, they don't need to be. They have a different use case, and also they do have a nice neat little regen buff as well. If you eat something, obviously you don't have to kill it, but if you kill something and then eat it, then you get a nice regen buff, and you often see Argies in the wild doing this. And in at number 1, we have got the Deinonychus, and this creature is here just because it is my all-time favourite, and nothing really does replace this on the greatest Ark creatures list. So let's just start with the basics and what you'll probably see and notice first. It is an extremely mobile creature that also takes no fall damage, and on top of that, it deals hefty amounts of bleed damage and can grapple onto large creatures and even deal bleed damage to bosses, which as far as I'm concerned, no other Ark creature can. It also has a very reasonable health stat, especially for its size, some nice stamina, some nice weight, and obviously a lot of damage. You can melt through bosses so quickly, and this especially does help considering it has the pack buff on top of this as well, and obviously that pack buff is just going to buff you even more. Obviously the name does suggest it, and you're just going to get those bosses done even faster, and who really doesn't want a Deinonychus army? Also, these creatures are very easy to tame, maybe not your very simple knockout tame and it's over and done with. You steal their eggs from a nest. So sorry if you get the bug where they don't spawn, because you're missing out really. These are just such great creatures. Then from that, you can just raise them with a couple of torches, obviously incubate them and then raise them, and it's not too bad. As long as your rates aren't on official, then they shouldn't take the longest amount of time to raise, and then you've got yourself some Deinonychuses and a Deinonychus army. And also they can kind of parkour around the map as well, so they can climb any kind of wall, vertical surface, which again does very much aid them in just traveling around the map. They really are great all-rounder, a must-have, greatest Ark creature for me. The top 10 most fantastic Ark tames. So in number 10, I wanted to put the Rhinognatha, as I find this really does add a lot to the game that is Ark Survival Evolved, from the fact that it can pick up just such a wealth of creatures to its general travelling abilities. Also, considering it spawns on the island, it is accessible to pretty much everyone out there apart from mobile players and I'm sorry, your version of Ark is a little bit depressing in my opinion from the creature side of things. But to console players out there, and just to PC players of course, the Rhino Ganasser is a creature which you'll find, you know, a lot of people are using these days. They are just so useful for general travel and travelling around with creatures too, and the fact that they can deal a heck of a lot of damage really does emphasize these creatures as being great ones, and they really are fantastic. They add a lot to the game and they're very deserving of this spot on the list. Coming in next, we have got the Reaper, and this might just be nostalgia playing on me here, but I always think of this as a sort of a higher creature in regards to just such a fantastic creature than the Rhino Ganasser. I find it blends into its map much more effectively, and it really did innovate for the time. Considering also the Rhino Ganasser's tame method wouldn't have happened without the Reaper being there in the first place, as it pretty much just is a rehashing. This really does need to be here as well, as this has inspired further creatures along the way, and the Rhino Ganasser simply hasn't. And I know it hasn't had a lot of time for just further creature development to come from it, as this is a 2017 creature after all, and that's a 2023 creature as far as I'm aware. I don't think it came out this year, I think it was last year, unless my brain deceives me. But yeah, I just feel like this has done a lot more for the Ark game, and I kind of prefer it as a creature. Its aesthetics are nicer. I like its abilities and its damage, although it doesn't really have too many abilities. The fact that it can go underground and can slow down creatures with its tail attack, deal a heck of a lot of damage, and just be really interesting to tame and interact with, makes it a fantastic creature for me. Next, I really want to put the Crystal Wyvern, as I find this is one of those creatures where I really find it is just so overpowered for the taming method. Taming a Crystal Wyvern is ridiculously easy, and way easier in my opinion than just a regular Wyvern. You need to be level 60, then simply knock out Crystal Wyvern and that primal crystal will be obtained. Then find a very specific spot on the back of it. It's kind of just between the head and the wings, sort of just on the body. There's a sort of spot where you can nestle there, and as it flies around, just click E whenever it wants that primal crystal and you get yourself a Crystal Wyvern. I love the elemental abilities. My favourite one is the Blood Crystal Wyvern. The Emerald Crystal Wyvern is also quite a popular one among many. This is the Tropical Crystal Wyvern because I just think it looks better for the B-roll, but I find that elemental abilities are just more useful than the general Wyvern ones, and they also are just really lovely creatures to use and really easy to tame. In number 7, we have got the Shadowmane, and this is just one of those creatures where it's like it is really innovated in the space, coming out in Gen 2 of course. It has been around for a fair few years now, 2 or 3, I think it's 3 now, considering I'm pretty sure Gen 2 is 2021. Hopefully I got that right. My brain can't really think back that many years at the moment because it's in a little bit of a fog in 2024 mode. But either way, this creature is just so packed full of abilities. It is insane. It can jump to incredible heights. It has the hydration buff. It has the pack buff. It can go invisible when there's the presence of both the male and the female, and they also do really work very well in the water. Again, that hydration buff is playing a huge part in that, but they are just great swimmers too, which can't be said about some other creatures which you'll find on the list. They really are versatile in terms of all things mobility. They are great damage dealing mounts and great for bosses, and great innovators in the small carnivore space. Coming up next, we have got the Argentavis, and it really does need to be here for me. The RG has been around ever since the beginning, and it's gone through obviously some TLC with a better model upgrade, and I think some new abilities added. Actually, I know some new abilities added, and it really does just carry in terms of a flyer. While not the fastest out there, it has 50% weight reduction on things like metal, crystal and obsidian, with the added bonus of its saddle acting as a portable smithy, which can't be said about quite a lot of other creatures just in the game. The Castor-Voides is a good example of another creature utilising this. They can also pick up a wealth of creatures like the Dodic and the Anki, which can help you to gather all things like those resources like I mentioned, metal, crystal, obsidian, but then you can get stone and flint and wood and thatch. Fiber you're not going to be getting on this thing, but really you can get a Theory to do that, and that is going to be very effective. They can also carry a secondary creature in their beak too if you want to take your Dodo for a little skyflight, and they are very effective in regenerating quickly too, as if you simply kill something and eat the dead body, or just simply eat a corpse of a creature, you're going to have a nice regen buff which is going to carry you. In number 5, we have got the Baryonyx, and this is the best Caven creature really in my eyes, especially considering the time at which you're going to be getting this creature. Spawning in the swamp biome on the island, and swamp biomes on just other maps in general, and the whole bog biome on Gen 1 of course, these are really effective caving mounts. Their size is perfect, that they can pretty much live into any sort of cave that you'd be wanting to go into. Their high damage and high health with great mobility allows them to go into these caves and fight against all of the combatants very effectively, and it really does great in this regard. They're great for underwater caving too, due to their spin attack, which in some creatures up to the size of a Megalodon. They can also jump too, so I guess now you can go Super Mario Galaxy style. But yeah, they really are a favourite of mine. I love these creatures, and for the level you're getting them at and for the ease of taming, just a very basic knockouts, you really can't get anything too much better than one of these things. Coming up next, we have got the Desmodus, and the Sanguine Elixir that this thing offers is just such a valuable resource in my opinion. I simply had to put it on the most fantastic Arc Creatures list. Also, with its nice neat glide ability, it is a very effective flyer. Obviously, the Sanguine Elixir is going to give you 30% of your tames like that with a click of a button. There are also Blood Bag farms too, and for the next creature on the list, that is going to be a very huge help, or just a big helping hand in a way. They're great for PvP too, with the ability to pick players off mounts with relative ease, especially seeing that glide ability again. You can get quite a lot of speed going with these things. On top of that, they can grapple onto any kind of wall or vertical surface, or even ceilings like the Tapejara, which you'll find on Arc as well, although this is the fast period creature. The tame method is the same as the next creature on the list, I'll talk about it then. But yeah, really fantastic creature, spawns on Fjorda, and is definitely innovated in the space. And in number 3, like you could probably guess, we've got the Bloodstalker. This is my all-time favourite, just general travelling mount. Really, the next creature on the list is, it just has got a slight edge, but for underwater travel this is really my go-to, and for general travel as well. I really do like it, although the other creature just slightly surpasses it. But for all of the other underwater travel, which I'm doing a surprising amount of at the moment, it's actually a little bit weird for me to be doing that, but it's definitely satisfying those needs. You tame it by getting blood bags, and you can feed it something like a Moschops first to get that effectiveness up to 100%, which, you know, to be honest, it's relatively easy to do if you just have the basic prep done. With your Desmodus as well, you can farm those blood bags and get a Bloodstalker easily. The reason why they're so good at underwater travel is they're very fast and just generally mobile in a given underwater environment, and you can easily take them out of the water too, and you're essentially just like Spider-Man. They can glide along the top of the water too, and you can see the aggros of all the creatures. In a low visibility environment like the ocean, that is really, really useful in my opinion. Let's get on to the next creature on the list then, shall we? Coming in at number 2, we have got the Maywing, and this really is the epitome of just general travelling mounts. You really can't get much better than this thing, especially in terms of the level you're getting this thing at. Its saddle was unlocked at level 18, but I usually get it in my mid-20s because some trank arrows are something which I use, because I just go for the highest level one I can find first, get a couple of signs, and then just trank it out. That saddle again unlocked at level 18. You can craft it, it's ridiculously cheap, and then you've got a really high level one straight off the bat. You don't need to sort of stagger it in a way, just because of how easy they are to trap and actually tame. Then there's a little bit of learning curve in actually learning how to fly one of these things, but once you have done that, you really aren't going to struggle whatsoever at getting these things around the place, and they travel with such speed that there really is nothing better out there. They act as a portable feeding trough too, with that slight disturbing animation you'll see in a little bit. Still can't really get over it, but you know, I guess it's there. You can carry 4 babies as well in its saddle too, and even steal enemy baby creatures with this ability. They're pretty decent swimmers as well, not quite as good as the Bloodstalker, and they can actually skim along top of the water too. Again, like the Bloodstalker, but they're not quite as good as a swimmer. And they can gather berries too, actually. It's a nice, neat ability they have. And in number 1, we've got the Deinonychus, and I know this really does seem to very often top my lists, but I really do need to emphasize that I love this creature, and I think it's the most fantastic one out there. With its very fast mobility, the fact that it takes no fall damage, and its wall climbing skills, it is great in the aspect of mobility. Not a great swimmer, but you know, for everything else, this does all of the job that I need it to do, apart from flying, but you know, hey ho. They deal bleed damage to bosses, which only it does, and if you've got the pack buff on top of this as well, you can do some serious damage. And especially considering, again, you can do this to bosses, you can shred through them with absolute ease and have no worries or issues with them. It is just such a great creature for defeating bosses. I really can't emphasize enough how good it is for that job. And if you get some health mutations, you can do some of the longer ones as well. Again, when you're traveling, they take no fall damage, which is just such a nice, neat thing. It's small, but it really does add a lot of fluidity into your travel, as you don't have to worry about quickly dismounting before you hit the ground, because you realize you've jumped off something a bit too high and you don't really want to be taking any fall damage, because the reality is you're taking no fall damage when you're on one of these things. So if you haven't already, definitely consider one of these things. They're very easy to tame, in my opinion. Steal the eggs from the Chalk Cliffs biome and then raise it as your own, of course. Choose whichever level you really want to go for. At the start, you can kind of go for a mid-range level or a high-range level. It doesn't really matter. Just get one and you're going to love these things, trust me. So thank you to my wonderful patrons, Ekaterina Puchkova, Karina Thorne, Dominic Masajewski, and Ethan Tapia, who have all supported me through Patreon or through YouTube memberships. If you want to join this list, then go join Patreon or YouTube members. But thanks to all of these guys.